The rain over Kigali on the morning of April 7th, 1994, did not wash away the tension. It only seemed to thicken the air of a city on the precipice of madness. Just hours after the Rwandan president's plane was blown from the sky, a chilling silence fell over the capital, broken only by the crackle of radio static and the heavy boots of the presidential guard. This was the moment the world held its breath, and the shadows of a century-old conflict finally lengthened into a nightmare that would consume nearly 1 million lives. Today, we witnessed the first hours of that darkness, the signal that turned a nation into a killing field. Before we go any further into this harrowing chapter of history, remember to comment, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss future episodes of the Calendar of Crime. Your support helps us keep these vital stories alive and ensures we never forget the lessons of the past. Now, let's return to the streets of Kigali, where the first targets have already been marked. Prime Minister Agathe Uwilingiyimana, the first woman to hold the office in Rwanda and a staunch advocate for peace, knew her time was running out as the sun struggled to pierce the grey cloud. She was a moderate Hutu, a voice of reason in a room filled with those screaming for blood, and her very existence was an obstacle to the genocidal plan already in motion. As she prepared to head to the national radio station to broadcast a plea for calm, she was unaware that the station had already fallen to the Hutu extremists of the Presidential Guard. The airwaves that should have carried her message of unity were instead filled with the venomous rhetoric of the RTLM calling for the tall trees to be cut down. To protect the Prime Minister, General Roméo Dallaire, the commander of the UN peacekeeping mission, dispatched a small escort of 15 soldiers, 5 Ghanaians and 10 Belgians from the elite Paracommando Brigade. These men, clad in their iconic blue helmets, represented the international community's promise of protection, yet they were walking into a trap designed to shatter that very promise. The Belgian soldiers were specifically targeted. The extremist leaders knew that if they could spill Belgian blood, the Western world would likely lose its stomach for the mission and withdraw, leaving the country to its fate. The confrontation at the Prime Minister's residence was swift and brutal. The Presidential Guard, outnumbering and outgunning the UN escort, disarmed the peacekeepers and forced them to the ground. In the chaos, Agathe and her husband attempted to flee to a neighbor's house, seeking a sliver of sanctuary in a city that had turned into a labyrinth of roadblocks and checkpoints. They were discovered within hours. The woman who stood as a symbol of Rwanda's hope for a democratic future was executed on the spot, her life extinguished as the first official act of the genocide. While the 5 Ghanaian peacekeepers were eventually released, the 10 Belgians were taken to Camp Kigali, a military barracks that would become their final stand. There, stripped of their weapons and surrounded by a mob of Rwandan soldiers fueled by propaganda and hate, they were subjected to a horrific ordeal. They fought with whatever they had, Some accounts say they used their bare hands and bayonets against a hail of bullets and the relentless swing of machetes. By the afternoon, all 10 lay dead, their sacrifice becoming the catalyst for the very outcome the extremists desired. The Belgian government, reeling from the loss, ordered its troops to leave Rwanda. The deaths of the Prime Minister and the 10 peacekeepers were not just isolated murders. They were the signal to kill. With the moderate leadership decapitated and the international community's strongest contingent heading for the exits, the barriers to mass slaughter were gone. Across the hills of Rwanda, the Interahamwe militias began their grim work, moving from house to house with lists of names and sharpened blades. The genocide had begun in earnest, and the world, despite the warnings and the mounting bodies, would largely remain a silent witness to the 100 days of blood that followed. Thanks for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe for future episodes from the calendar of crime.